What up? What up, fam? Soul tribes, soul peeps. I wanted to finish up. I wanted to follow the little video I just posted. Well, I recorded it a couple days ago, and I kind of lost the thread. And my apologies. Because I was still recording for like 15 or 20 minutes after that, and then my phone just erased the whole fucking thing. So the thing about trauma. Our trauma response, especially if we grew up in a state of like constant threat, constant fight or flight, as a child, what registers as safety and survival is, it's a little bit different than how it registers as an adult. Although, even as adults do this, the whole survival mechanism, the reason we get so much anxiety and fear, especially with things that are like speaking in front of a crowd of people and stuff like that. Obviously, it's not going to be fatal if it doesn't go well, but to be outcast from the group registers as a survival threat to our brains, and that's where so much anxiety and fear comes from in this modern era. And a lot of us are kind of awash in this culture. But anyways, talking about PTSD and complex PTSD, the other two or three actually. Is like fawning and freezing. And freezing is when you just, I kind of finished up on fawning. It's like supplication of the abuser of the source of threat to try to survive. And this is very common in children, and I think probably a little bit more in women than in men. Just because of the physical reality of the world that we live in. Men tend to be larger and more violent and aggressive. And if you grew up in an abusive household, chances are, it's higher that the violence came from a man than a woman. Although it's not universally true. I know personally, I know damn well that it's not true. There's a lot of women that will use that. A lot of female abusers will use that to their advantage, especially in legal contexts. This like fake victim ploy that they will often pull afterwards. But yeah, fawning and then freezing is when it's like deer in the headlights. Your system just kind of shuts down. It's in a state of like shock, just waiting for life-threatening situation to either end or to happen. but basically your body and your nervous system goes into a state where you're immobilized. And the final stage of PTSD and complex PTSD is collapse. And that's when you've been in these various states of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. And if you've developed autoimmune disorders over time, this tends to happen because when you have cortisol and all this shit pumping through your body constantly, your immune system shuts down. And when it's going on all the time, it starts to get confused as to what is self and what is other. And so, when it starts attacking its own tissues, your body starts attacking its own organs and stuff like that. A lot of times the immune system goes completely haywire, exponentially so if you get an infectious agent that is adding to that. And then we see like MS, lupus, Lyme disease, and a whole host of things that are very, very similar. But my personal experience, the reason that this is coming up last week is I found this group called Adult Children of Alcoholics, and now they have like a / dysfunctional families, which is cool because there doesn't have to be substances involved for these patterns of dysfunction that are so detrimental and so destructive to the children. There's not always substances involved, but the patterns of abuse and then of the children's reaction to that abuse for survival tend to be pretty similar. And so I've just been checking this group out a little bit. I want to get there. It's called The Big Red Book, and then they have a couple other pieces of literature I haven't looked into yet, but I've seen little snippets out of them, and it looks pretty freaking awesome. But my personal experience was much less fawning and codependency in relationships versus rebellion. And, when I got big enough to fight back, I did. When I was like 10, 11, 12. And then, obviously the violence just escalated from there. The abuse and insanity and everything from every direction. So I ended up being the black sheep and the rebel, and to this day, dude, I'm not in communication with really any of my family at this point because of the events of the last couple of years and the criminal endeavors that they've either led or joined in on or had significant first person involvement with. Because I won't just fucking submit and grovel and be a part of their fucking narrative where I'm the bad guy. Instead of them being held accountable for their fucking crimes. That's the weirdest thing, and I'm so glad. I was just looking at Family Dynamics like a week before they towards the end of 2024, the events of the end of that year. I had been looking at this, and only because I was doing that did some of this other stuff start making sense. Pieces were kind of clicking and falling into place, especially with my parental units. That was just like, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Why are they acting this way in the midst of a freaking crisis? Like when my stuff was going on, and the fires here in California, Altadena fires that destroyed my daughter's school and my daughter's disappearance and all kinds of shit, like right in the middle of this whole freaking giant mess. And having my whole family just go like radio silent after, like, I've known these people for decades, dude. Thank God for the internet and for being able to study and research and look at these kind of things and being able to put all the pieces together, man. It's wild. It's fucking wild. The toxicity and the criminality of even family members, dude. The cluster B disorders, this is what they're about. All of them are some level of lack of empathy, lack of conscience. Sometimes it's very overt. Sometimes it's like, Ted Bundy and freaking Silence of the Lambs level. Twisted depravity, like sadism. What I'm seeing also in true cluster B disorders, there's always some element of sadism. There's kind of a sick and perverse gratification that they get from harming others or seeing other people harmed. Even the lower levels like histrionic and BPD and NPD, all of them that I've seen that I would say really fall into the categories of cluster B, or the disorders of the conscience. Psychopathy. To me they're all just various variations of psychopathy, of evil, different flavors of it. Otherwise, sometimes PTSD and CPTSD can get mistaken, and some other things. If there's like a constellation of disorders, but when that happens, those are usually reactions to abuse. And people that don't actually get pleasure from harming others, like I personally, I'm not a doctor, obviously, whatever. Philosophy of psychology. It's how these different fields of study evolve. The people that are making meaning from the edges of it and having conversations about it. That's why there's the DSM 4 or 5. I don't know how long it's going to be till the 6 comes out, but it's part of this ongoing conversation. But yeah, I think all the cluster B disorders should be labeled psychopathy, and then with like subdivisions for 4 or 5 of them, whatever. Because it's labeled like the dramatic. Right now, it's like the dramatic something or other, dude. Fuck that. Like, yeah, histrionic and borderlines love drama usually. Narcissists often do. As long as they get to create it and then sit back and watch the destruction and keep their hands clean, keep their hands clean, at least as far as everyone else in the law is concerned. But drama doesn't even begin to touch the fucking beginning of any of this shit. As any of you who've dealt with these motherfuckers knows, they're evil. They're fucking evil incarnate. Full stop, dude. That's it. It's the different flavors of evil. And psychology doesn't go there because they're like, well, that's kind of a philosophical issue, or that's like a legal issue, law and order, etc., whatever. It's like they need to put on their big boy, big girl chonies and fucking call it what it is, dude. It's like when you find people that lack remorse, they lack empathy, they can't follow the laws, they put all their fucking energy into breaking the laws, conning people, stealing, destroying, getting away with whatever they can, even in legal context, man. And then there's a lot of these motherfuckers in law, in politics, in medicine, and anywhere that there's a power imbalance, dude, they gravitate towards those kind of positions and places because they like having power over other people. It's the opposite of humans. Humans want to create. Humans want to raise their young in peace and safety and do things. Psychopaths and the whole cluster B disorder, they want to steal, kill, and destroy in whatever ways they can, in whatever ways they like to, in whatever ways they think they can get away with, without repercussion. And they blend into society really well. And unfortunately, in America in particular, often a lot of selfish and narcissistic and destructive and even psychopathic qualities are celebrated, especially in terms of like businesses and warfare and some of these industries where it's like it is all about destruction and how much destruction can we cause, and how many businesses can we like undercut and buy out and fucking destroy people's livelihoods and all of this other stuff, dude. It's like it's gnarly. It's gnarly here. And I mean, I think it's like Western cultures is tend to be that way, but it's especially prevalent in the United States. And all the social media shit is not helping. It's not helping. Anyways, dude, these fucking characters, these fucking cast of clowns and characters, man. So over them. So over it. But yeah, these are the ones, it's talking about trauma and CPTSD and family dynamics. Well, these are the ones that cause all of those. And they don't heal, they don't change, they can't self-reflect. They don't have the mirror, they don't have the empathy and the mirror neurons to be able to self-reflect and interact with humans on a one-to-one. It's always power imbalance. Who's on top, who's on the bottom, who's getting points, who's losing. And all of the ones that I've seen in my time, and I'm not counting just the people that are apathetic. There's a lot of people that will just stand by when they realize what's going on and just like, oh, it's not my deal or whatever. But the ones that are truly on the cluster B disorder, there's always some element of sadism involved. You can see it in the eyes, dude. You can see it in the eyes. They light up. They light up when somebody else is hurting, or when they're hurting somebody. Depending on their flavor, man. Yeah. Hope you guys are doing well. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Collapse. Oh, that was the other one. Collapse. When you've been in it too long, your system just starts shutting down. That's where I got to over the years of dealing with this shit off and on and off and on, and my immune system from Lyme disease and stuff. But yeah, eventually your body just collapses and even like the body will just withdraw blood from the brain, from the fucking organs, from the extremities to go into the organs to try to keep you alive as long as possible. But it's crazy shit, man. It's crazy shit. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, collapse. But the reason that these things happen outside of natural disasters, because that can happen as well. But in human terms, it's the cluster B. It's the cluster B fam doing this shit to the fucking human fam. I don't got no sympathy for him anymore, dude. Anyway, hope y'all are doing good.